Okay, I'm going to upload this as a standalone video to explain which motor mount is which on a 99 Mercury Villager or Quest over a range of like 6 years. They'll be the same. Because when they show the pictures, they don't say what they are and everybody's confused about it or which ones to do first. Okay, let's do the passenger side first, and I'll also add other notes because why not? Okay, passenger side. This is the front passenger side. That's the one that goes bad all the time. The reason is because people see it. It's easily accessible. They replace it. It bears all the weight and then goes bad immediately. That's the front passenger side. That tall one is the rear passenger side. That's the one with the center bolt that's hard to see up in there. It is there. It's accessible. It's just if it's dark, you can't see it. Okay, that's the rear passenger. This is the front driver's, also called the transmission motor mount. This is by far the easiest to do. A beginner, a child could do it in 15 minutes. It's at the front of the engine, behind the radiator. The nuts are all totally exposed. This is the easiest one. I recommend doing this one first because it gets your confidence up if you're new to motor mounts. Okay, front driver's motor mount, also called transmission motor mount. Okay, now this one is the rear driver motor mount. Now this requires some comment because those welded on bolts sticking out, those go into a flange that has the nuts fit on and it tightens to a flange. When you remove it, the aluminum flange, you'll see it underneath there, the aluminum flange bracket has 4 bolts that bolt to the engine. Okay, to take it out and put it in, you have to loosen and take out all the nuts and bolts, including the top one through the rubber, the center one that goes through the rubber. Okay, so when you remove those the bolts from the bracket, and plus the motor mount, and plus the top center one, all of those fall down onto your face on the spot. To put it back in, you stick the motor mount up in there. It wiggles in between the flange where it fits, the rubber part where it fits. You fit it up in there loose, and then you put the aluminum bracket on next. You put that up in there and wiggle it on over those screws. That's how it has to come off. That's how it has to go in. You cannot loosen the bracket and then pull it down attached to the with the motor mount still attached to it because it won't fit. They both have to come out separate and go in separate. This one is the least likely one to be bad. My motor mounts were terrible, but this one came out pristine, and it was not a replacement. I've owned the van for years. You can look up in there with a light and see that rubber. You may not think you can, but you can. Look up in there. The odds are good. This hardest one, the odds are good you don't need to replace that one. Let's see. Okay, that does it for this one. Okay, Mercury Villager passenger side motor mount replace. First thing is jack up the car. You're better off going to get these. I got 2 jack stands and a floor jack for 56 bucks. Just go ahead and do it. Take off the tire. And then my jack that comes with the van, I have it under the oil pan to lift the weight off of the engine so I can get the motor mounts out. I'm going to go ahead and use the take off the cross member method. Okay, now there's the back one. It's the passenger side, the back one. And so this flange you just bend it the hell out of the way. Okay, it likely was bent that way to begin with. It shouldn't have been in that position. Okay, now here's the front one. Now that's an easy one. You don't have to take off the oil filter or none of that. These are for the back passenger motor mount. They're not the same size. The short one goes to the front of the vehicle. When you take off the cross member, on the front mount, see that top bolt, the one with the rubber in it? Take that out first because it's easy, and go ahead and leave those two attached. On the back one, you do just the opposite. On the back one, you can't get up to the one that's up in the top very easy. So instead, take those out because they're easy. And then go ahead and just undo the 4 bolts and drop the cross member. And then that one, of course, is still going to be attached. Then you can access it to get up in there to do the final bolt. See, now that the cross member is out, that motor mount I left in, but now the bolt, the top bolt up here that you can't get to, now it's totally exposed. So now I'll just go under there and undo the one center bolt, this one, and take out that one. And then I'm going to do exactly the reverse to put it back in. I'm going to put that top center bolt in first, and then I'm going to lift this up and put in the 2 bolts. Let's see. This was replaced 10 days ago. It's already ruined. That is because of doing only one and not the other one. And then this bears all the weight and it gets ruined almost immediately. You see now the passenger side rear motor mount is totally exposed for me to work on. By the way, this part here, that bolt that faces the outside, that's a welded assembly. Do not try to put a wrench on there and try to turn that. It's welded. But you see what I'm saying? Instead of the cross member would be right here. But instead, everything is totally exposed and I can easily get to the bolt and back. See, there it is. Totally out in the open. How sweet it is. Could you be doing that with a cross member there? No. There it is. Bad as it gets. Okay, that weird rubber flap, I chose to just, I gobbed on a bunch of gasket sealant, you know, some silicone, and stuck it on there. Otherwise, when you get up in there, you know, you have to try to position it. You don't know if the bolt's going through it or not. But that's it. You put, regardless if you left this one on there or not, onto the cross member, when you put them back in, put this one in and hang them both up like Christmas tree ornaments. By the way, don't put these in backwards because you can. See those 2 little holes? Those go to the outside. Okay, on this one, this jog side goes to the outside of the vehicle. This is the front of the cross member with the 2 wide holes. That's the front, that's the back. Okay, now the other one, I already put it in there, the back one. It's sitting there swinging free. See, the bolt goes through this bushing, and so these just swing free. So it's already sitting there. This one, I'm going to do the same thing. I could put it on here and muscle it into position. Okay, after you've put the cross member back on, notice how I've left 3/8 of an inch of play. Now I can maneuver in my my bolts easily for the lower part of the motor mounts. See on the back one, when you hang it like a Christmas tree ornament, use common sense to try to get it in the correct position. But notice that it turns out the holes are perfectly lined up. Now I can maneuver my bolts in and just lift up and down on the cross member, if you know, just to wiggle them through, and then tighten down the 4 nuts on the other side, and I'm done. But see how the 2 bolts for the cross member are up a little bit high? No problem. I just simply loosen those a turn or two with my fingers. That's the beauty of using this method.